Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Collective Intelligence Block Party number 24. That's right, this is the 24th 24-hour block party. I'll have to ask Silas to do the math, how many hours that means we've been here so far doing block parties, but it's a big number. And we are here kicking off the very first segment of the day, which is Food Healers. And I'm honored and delighted to introduce my longtime brother and friend, Dr. Silas Rao, to help kick us off. Welcome, Marco. Welcome, everyone. Silas, we love you. Lead us forward.
Thank you so much, Jamin. Yeah, in response to Vince's question about what do we do if there are competing systems of economy, regardless of how many competing systems there is only one that is truly sustainable. That will be truly sustainable. I mean, there won't be too many. I mean, unless it's also, see, if they don't have a vegan economy, it won't be sustainable in the long run. Okay, so eventually people will figure out that the vegans have to get together and that will be the sustainable economy. Because I ask, if something is sustainable, that means that everyone is okay with it. And it can continue forever, right? That's what sustainability means. If someone is unnecessarily hurting innocent animals, there will always be a DXC in front of them. So that is definitely not sustainable, right? So you can prove, right, that it's only a vegan world that's sustainable. You have to be kind to all life, otherwise it's not sustainable. That's to me, that's the minimum we need to be doing, because there's a lot of other things we need to do beyond that. Not just being kind, not harming other animals, but actually going out there and planting trees, helping nature, right? So it's a different way of living altogether. And so, in fact, it's a very good question you brought up, because I had a discussion yesterday with Edward Muller, the biologist. He's leading the next 7 days, I think 6 days now, 6 days of the Humanity Rising event. So that's 2 hours each day they do Humanity Rising. So he's in Costa Rica, and he is talking about doing holistic grazing and cattle raising in Costa Rica. So I asked him, and then he was using statistics from the UN IPCC about why animal agriculture is not such a big deal. So I sent him a white paper, and I asked them, can you still be talking about holistic grazing when you're a biologist? When you're a biologist and you understand trophic levels, and how going up the trophic levels for your consumption only just increases your impact. He ought to know that. He's a biologist. And he was very upset with me. So he said, your numbers are wrong. And, anyway, he sent a short email clearly showing that he was upset. But it's good. That means that at least I've gotten him to start thinking, and that we are not buying whatever he is saying anymore. I think those are the things that we need to make sure we tell people. When they're lying to us, we tell people, look, we understand a little bit better than you think. And therefore, we think you're not telling us the truth because of this. It puts them on, at least it makes them think about how they have to present it if they have to present lies like that, right? So anyway.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable when the exploitation of the planet's involved and the exploitation of animals involved. I'm trying to get more comfortable with being like, hey, the burden of proof is on you. Your system is violent and our system is not. So if your system is preferable and better, burden of proof is on you, because if you're going to do something that exploits and causes violence and pain and suffering, you really, really, really need to be to strongly justify it. And the positions they have, I think, are very weak, if anything at all. And I think to me, it would have to be like overwhelmingly like, this is the only way to do it in order to justify that. And they can't even come close to that, in my opinion.
Right. Did you want to say something, BJ?
Well, I was thinking about, in fact, it's to justify violence. There does have to be a good reason. It has to be to save one's other life, because life is what we're trying to save, whether it's individually or on Earth. So I have talked with people about that kind of cattle raising and said, why not just let nature, let the deer and the natural ungulates work with the soil.
Right.
And then we're not killing these animals as babies. And that they have to the ones I've talked to immediately go to, well, grass, sequesters more carbon than trees. And I'm like, well, we can have grass and trees.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he actually said that too. Grass can sequester more than trees. And I said, in Costa Rica, I mean, come on, don't pull that on me. In Costa Rica. So it's always the native ecosystem in a region that maximizes the carbon sequestration, right? So, and so it's, especially for a biologist to say that, it's clearly the money is talking.
Well,
Anyway, speaking of which, I have been pricing, and I mean, looking at what Annamrita has been doing in India. So if you don't know this organization, they're an amazing organization. Let me put their name up on the chat. Annamrita.org. So they say they have served 16 million meals since the pandemic. Okay, originally they were structured to supply schools with midday meals. Okay, so for a elementary school kid, I think they're providing a meal of about 450 calories and 20 grams of protein or something like that, 16 grams of protein. And for high school kid, they're providing 750 calories and 20 grams of protein, something like that. Anyway, so they have sort of systematized it, and they cook their food in big boilers. So they're in 21 cities in India, and they cook their food in big boilers, and then they have vegetable chopping machines, and it's all steam cooked, so it minimizes the loss of flavor and nutrients in the cooking process. But they're also serving stews. It's pretty much a stew that goes out. It's rice and lentils and veggies and spices and so pretty much a complete meal, right? So I connected them with Dr. Tushar Mehta, because Tushar Mehta has said, because they're also cooking only vegan meals, primarily because of the meals going bad. Okay, so they don't want to use any animal products because the meals go bad easily. So they cook it in these boilers, and then they put the meals in these double-walled steel containers. Okay, double-walled steel containers, and then the containers are taken to the schools or wherever the distribution points are, right? And then they have a big ladle. So same like K-Mama ladle. I have a ladle for the logo for K-Mama, like a big ladle, and then every kid gets a ladle, right? That's how they serve. So they have a different size ladle. They're going to an elementary school versus a secondary school and so on. And then they have procedures in place. because the kids bring their own vessels to collect the meal, and they bring their own utensils from home. So they each have some plastic spoon or something, and then they have a plate or a cup to collect the meal. And so they have this one ladle, and they're pouring food. And if the food touches the ladle, I mean, if the ladle touches the vessel, then they have a secondary ladle, a second ladle in place, and then they go wash this one. So they got all these processes in place because they have figured this out over time by doing it, right? So it'll be useful for us to copy that. Number one. I mean, it doesn't have to be that we have to do it all in the same boilers with steam and all that. It could be commercial kitchens cooking it, but at least some of these processes we can copy. Now, the reason I bring them up is that they advertise that their cost of the meal per kid is 6 cents. 6 cents per meal. I was like shocked, That's nothing.
How could we not be ending hunger?
I
The
know.
cost is 6 cents a meal. I mean, 1 billion people to feed them a year is 365 billion meals times 6 cents is $18 billion.
Right.
With $18 billion, we eradicate hunger.
Right. I know. I mean, you can tell right away, right, that Jamin, that the hunger is there as part of the system.
Exactly. And that's why the biggest blow to the system that's going to knock over the biggest pillars in one blow are going to be when we start this in a big way and we blast into the mind and it becomes a story. Because people across the United States, they're going to be watching CNN, they're going to look at their spouse, they're going to look back at CNN, and they're going to say, wait a second. Are you telling me we can feed kids nutritious, high protein, with fiber and vitamins and everything else? Let's say in the United States, by the time you factored in whatever costs and whatnot, I don't think it's going to be that much different, but
Right.
Let's say we're up to 25 cents a meal. You're saying, wait a second. You're telling me we can feed everybody who's hungry for 25 cents a meal?
Right.
And these people are starting it in Tempe, Arizona, right? And it's working. We need this everywhere. I mean, it's just, that'll be the beginning of end of hunger. And because everyone, of course, is going to wonder, well, what's in the stew? What is it? Chicken stew, turkey stew, beef stew? No, it's a plant-based stew.
Right.
Oh, well, why is that? Well, first of all, so that it won't spoil, right? You put any kind of animal product, dairy product, it's going to spoil, right? And we can't have that. We're here to feed everybody. And second of all, so first for logistics, second of all, here's Dr. Priya Naik and her medical team that's in charge of the nutrition of the meals. And let her speak to that. And then, think of how nice a gentle introduction that's going to be to the Midwest housewife, to what is this plant-based stew. Then, hey, shame on you, kind of thing, right? Just give the world the gift of plant-based, meals. No one will criticize ever anyone for giving plant-based stew to a poor kid. And so we just make it nothing but feel good, right?
Yeah.
Let them get that gentle introduction to plant-based. And so anyway, I've been working on the economic side. How do we get this all funded? And without spilling any confidential beans, we're starting 2 new businesses where 100% of the profits will be donated to precisely this, right? And I've had deep discussions in the last several days with the folks with whom we're starting this, that we have to be very clear from the get-go. All profits, 100% of profits are going to this, right? And that stirred up a bunch of conversations and whatnot. But this is part of the new model, right? So the things we're introducing are feed everyone very efficiently, 100% plant-based, and supported by businesses who give everything, all their profits to this, right? And in that way, we simply set the example, right? And they'll be interviewing us. They'll be interviewing us from the standpoint of nutrition, logistics, who is paying for it, why are they paying for it, how efficient is it, you know, and the world will fall in love with these
Yeah.
gentle, compassionate, loving people who get up in the morning, put on their shoes, and go out and feed people, and who have a vision that we are eradicating hunger. So even though we start in Tempe, one city, we say our vision is global, and this must happen now for all these reasons. I was talking with some neighbors the other day as we're putting up a line of mailboxes on the street, and I said, look, you know, a year ago, I might have said, I actually wouldn't have said this a year ago, but just to kind of help get into their world, I said, you know, a year ago, I might have said to somebody, you know, get a job. But right now, there are no jobs, right? So, you know, people are going hungry. We can't have this. And the solution is so simple: food on tap. It's just like running water. It's just like running sewage. Let there be running food, right? Let it just flow at 10 cents a meal or whatever it's going to cost, right?
I mean,
Reality.
especially if people start growing vegetables, you know, in their homes, and they start coming and supplying it back to you. So you can create this local economy where they are providing some of the ingredients for your own stew, right? Yeah, the good news is Nadira, who was there for last week for the Black Vegans of Color segment. So she is cooking the stew this weekend, and she's going to check it out. This is K-Mama stew. I gave her the recipe, and so she's going to check it out. And then I spoke to Dr. Tushar Mehta, who who had been saying that, you know, for vegan meals that we're distributing, you know, we need to just powder some vitamin B12 tablets and put it on top, you know, as a sprinkling, so that get that out of the way. So everybody gets, you know, vitamin B12 fortified meals. So I asked him, how much should we be putting in it? And he said about 20 micrograms per meal. So, which is, I think I have 1,000 micrograms in each tablet there. So that's 50 meals per tablet.
Wait, you mean milligrams, right?
Micrograms.
Micrograms.
Right. Cobalamin is really tiny. The amount that you lose is very, very tiny per day. That's the vitamin B12 you lose. So anyway, he said 20 micrograms per day should be enough for anybody. So which is, you know, I mean, we can calculate. I think if you buy, I can get 1,000 tablets for $10 or $12 at CVS. So cyanocobalamin, and so that's equivalent for 5,000 meals, you know. So it's needed. So basically, you cook the meal and then you powder this and put it on top and mix it in. That's it. Gives it a slightly reddish color because of the cobalt.
All right, BJ, go for it, BJ. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it may not be a marketing aspect, but I used to be a health inspector, and one of the things is cross-contamination in the kitchen. You eliminate all that cross-contamination, and I think they will get that it doesn't spoil. I think they'll get that a lot easier. But it sure solves a lot of problems, doesn't it? A long list.
Totally. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like people just need one good reason for this to be plant-based. They don't need 100, and they don't need, you know, a whole lecture. They just, oh, so it doesn't spoil. Okay, great. Oh, and also it's immune boosting. Oh, okay. It's also less expensive. Okay. And guess what? You don't have to murder anyone. Well, okay. You know, I mean, it's just like, let's make it easy for them. Just like kindergarten. You don't start kindergarten with advanced level multidimensional vector calculus. You start with apples and oranges. Simple, right? If we keep in mind, these are simple primates who want to do the right thing. And we just have to show them, make it easy for them, right? Mick Jagger said it perfectly in 1968. Take it easy, baby, because it's all right. Under my thumb is a problem which once had me down. Under my thumb is this world hunger that used to kick us around. And it's up to us, all the way they look when they are well fed. Down to us, the change has come. It's under my thumb. And then he goes, take it easy, baby. Take it easy, baby. Let's make it easy, baby. Make it easy, baby, because it's all right. What could be easier than filling up bulk trucks with this nutritious stew and just dispensing it? Zero packaging, zero single use. That's another big innovation, right? So this hits all the check boxes. We've just got to do it. So let's put together, let's pool our resources. Let's get together and figure out a way to launch whatever campaign that basically puts the message out there and says, listen, we're starting in Tempe, Arizona, and here's what we need to raise. To feed all of Tempe for the next year, all we need is X $100,000. It'll probably be $1 million or something, because how many food insecure families are there in Tempe? Right? How many people?
I don't know, I have to find out. There are 180,000 people in Tempe.
Okay, so let's,
I know that we actually picked up the cereal and delivered it to the school on Monday. Okay, so that was a huge, I mean, it tells you that processed food takes up more volume. It's much bigger. So, and then we talked to the people in the school, the organizers of this food drive, about the Foodie-less idea. And they said, please send us the 2-pager and we will include it in our mailers to people. And say, this is what we're planning to do. So this way you can, and then they offered the school to be a distribution point for the meals. So no matter where you cook, you can bring the food to the school, and then people can come and pick up at a certain time the meal.
Wow.
So things are getting in place, slowly. Looking forward to it.
beautiful.
Hey guys, has there been any, or have you reached out to, like the transportation people? Like how does that work? What does that look like in terms of getting some assistance with the transport? Because you need, do you need refrigeration on the product?
Well, if we follow what Annamrita is doing, we don't. Basically, we cook the stew and then we put it in these double-walled containers. And so they say that by the time they distribute it, the temperature is at 50 degrees Celsius, even though it started out at 90 degrees Celsius.
And as far as containers go, are these things that you have to purchase?
The steel containers we probably have to purchase, yeah, the double-walled ones.
Okay.
I'd like to, oh, sorry, Danny, go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe you could ask for in-kind donations in that regard too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, as far as preparing the stew hot and delivering it hot, that makes all the sense in the world for like a school where there's 2,000 kids and they're ready to eat right now. So just, serve it hot, boom, boom, boom. What we're talking about in terms of feeding just the general population, going out to the neighborhoods, my personal belief is it's better to do it cold, because when the food is cold, no bacteria grows, or minimal bacteria growth. Where you have the most bacteria growth is underneath between boiling and room temperature, somewhere in the middle there's a sweet spot where bacteria just loves it and just grows like crazy. If it's in that temperature zone for a short period of time, no problem, scoop, plop, done. But what we don't want is a situation where we serve it hot and it gradually cools off in some non-refrigerated situation, bunch of bacteria growth, etc. So I think I believe in general, and I could be wrong, it makes sense to deliver it cold. I don't think we need a refrigerated truck because, with an insulated, double walled, that's basically like a thermos, right? It's an insulated container. If we had a big truck, whether with one big tank or I was also thinking those like cubic meter sized agricultural boxes, big plastic boxes reinforced with steel and all that, that's just multi-use. That may be the way to go. We fill up a bunch of those and 1 cubic meter at a time. We got a spigot, we dispense, and but if we distribute it cold, all people need to do is heat it up. And of course, as everyone knows, even if you eat it cold, that's no tragedy. It's no problem to eat a cold stew, right? It's just fine. So anyway, those are my 2 cents as far as logistics.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense to make it cold. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then people will receive it, fill up their own container. We'll fill their container. They put it either in their refrigerator or right to the stove or split it between the two. Real simple. And then we were also talking about, I don't know if we talked about this last Friday, but I think for Tuesday, for sure, we talked about how we start with a stew, a universal stew. That's like the first thing. And then I love making these blended smoothies because let's face it, the one thing that stew is kind of missing is raw vegetables, because everything in the stew will be cooked. Sure, you can put in some raw vegetables in the stew and whatnot, but what seems to be a really good complement would be that we blend in these massive, like Vitamix style blenders, green smoothies with all kinds of great green goodness, chia seeds, hemp hearts. It's like all that good green stuff that didn't make it into the stew, blend it up. And then on the same truck, even imagine you open up the back of the truck side by side, there's 2 of these 1 cubic meter thing full of stew, another full of green smoothie, right? And it's like smoothie time, and it'll be delicious and it'll be so cool. And then the third item I would add would be hot, fresh baked bread. Hot bread and stew and a green smoothie. I mean, I could go literally forever on just that diet. And in fact, that might be one of the things that we do. We kick off the press conference and there'll be like, I don't know, me and Silas and BJ and whoever else say, for the next 30 days, we're going to eat nothing but this that we're serving. Nothing but. And Dr. Priya Naik and the medical team and everything, they're going to be checking us, every couple of days and whatnot. I mean, let's dramatize it a little bit. And, how are you doing? How are all your vitals and everything? How do you feel 30 days in, right? We're just going to be like chowing down, drinking green smoothie, we're feeling great, right? And we have to get to that point where we do the press conference, because once we do the press conference, this thing is going to explode. It's going to be a bandwagon, and rich people are going to be tripping over each other to support this. So we just need to do the initial funding, right? Let's make it simple. Do the initial funding, whether it's a Patreon or a Kickstarter, I don't care what, but let's all get behind the same thing for once, one single initiative. And I will pound the table at every single meeting of the conversation, the solution club, the block party. Hey, everybody, here's where you go. Support this. This is, here's exactly what we're building toward. Our funding goal is this. It might be just $50,000. I don't care. Whatever it is, 100,000 to get Tempe started, right? Once we hit that number, we start. We put in all the purchase orders. We have all the kitchens lined up, and we organize the press conference, and we start. As soon as we have enough for several truckloads of stew, we do the press conference, because after that, even if we only have enough food at that point to last us, a week, right? By the end of that week, we will have the donations to take us all the way to the rest of the year and beyond. Whole cities will be jumping in. The point is to blast our way into the mind with a press conference. We'll serve all the media food. They'll all be eating it. They'll come with us on the trucks. We'll be playing music and dancing. It'll be just one giant party. And Danny's got her hand up after she kisses the kitty.
Sorry. I don't know, last week I mentioned the word federation, and I wanted to know if anybody has a network of sympathetic organizations that we could reach out to, because I can definitely help with that if I just have a list and the appeal. Thank you.
Love it. No, and you know what?
We're going to have,
No, go ahead, BJ. Mhm.
Oh, thank you. We're going to have a lot of animal rights groups signing in. I mean, they are going to be gung-ho about this. They're going to be maybe still focusing right on the front lines, but they will be so pleased that so that I don't know that they will split their funds, but they will be spreading the word. So they need to know about us, what we're doing.
That's it. And the bigger we make this sound, the more serious people are going to take it. And so in addition to, we're proclaiming the end of world hunger. That's it. And it's starting right here in Tempe, Arizona. And here's the story. And also let's have a declaration of independence from hunger and malnutrition, right? Let's make it to quote Will Ferrell from Talladega Nights, let's make it a big, hairy American winning machine, right? We're here in America. I mean, here's the thing. Arizona is a very, kind of, for the most part, broad brushstrokes. It's a red state, right? It's got some beautiful blue dots in it, like Silas's house, but it's a red state. So let's play up the American thing. Let's play up the freedom thing, the independence. I mean, here we are, we're getting pummeled. The country's getting pummeled, right? Let's call it a declaration of independence from hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics. How about that? From hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics. We're declaring a declaration right here in the hot American Southwest, which is one of the hardest hit regions in the world. Here we're taking a stand. We're saying, listen to this. Talk about leadership. Americans, right? Residents of Tempe, stay home. We're going to bring you the food. What a promise. What a promise. What? Well, who are these people telling us? Is this the mayor, the governor? No. These are just, some people who are committed to feeding everyone. Well, I got to meet these people, right?
And churches. What about churches? I mean, I don't know if you have any churches that will come on board, but we've long thought that that's where some of this ought to come from. So even Unitarian and Unity churches and whatever those ones are that might, even if they're not in Tempe, if they could say, oh yes, we're into this. I mean, gosh, there's so many possibilities. The United Nations has groups. Unitarians have members in the United Nations, and I'm sure other churches do too. You know more about that, Salish, but yeah, what do you think?
Makes sense. See, I mean, yesterday I posted on Facebook this article, this video, Democracy Now! I think you commented on it, BJ, where these workers were saying that, they have to go and work because they're hungry. And they don't even have money to buy masks. And it costs only $3 to $4 for a mask. And that they're saying they have to pay $3 to $4 for a disposable mask.
Let the slaughterhouse people stay home and eat.
Right.
Have had relationships with the interfaith coalitions that or Interfaith Vegan Coalition and the people at In Defense of Animals that I'm sure would be on board with this.
Yeah, they would. They would.
Here's what I think the key is. The key is, and paradoxically, not paradoxically, but synchronistically enough, the key, I think, is the story stone soup itself, where we first create a container that's big enough to hold this whole thing. And then we invite people to come and join the container, right? So the container, and welcome Ray, and welcome James. Great to see everybody. Hey, so the container is the Declaration of Independence from what? From hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics, right? We're going to feed everyone. We're going to eradicate hunger. You know, just imagine the big bullets. But I think the Declaration of Independence, and here's one of the cool things. My name is Jamin Whipple Shively. And Whipple comes from great Uncle William Whipple, who signed the Declaration of Independence representing Delaware. And great Uncle William didn't have any children of his own, so it's his great nieces and great nephews like myself who carry on his legacy. So there will be the same Whipple from the same family, the same bloodline, as signed the Declaration of Independence. We can also say, hey, we're looking for other descendants of signatories, because you know why? 10 generations in, we've all looked at the tree, right? Who's not a direct descendant of a signatory at this point, right? It's not who is, it's who isn't. And so we'll get so many, and of course, and that's like getting the nose of the camel into the tent. Y'all know the story. Get the nose of the camel in first, and the rest of the camel will follow. The nose of the camel will be, does your signature, do you want to be one of the John Hancocks who signs the Declaration of Independence from hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics? And this is America fighting back against the pandemic with food, right, and healing. And the organization is called Food Healers. But we invite all these organizations to be founders, to be founding members. And we just ask them, are you in or out for feeding everyone and ending the pandemic? And the Declaration of Independence, because at the end of the day, once we hit go, once we start that press conference, either your signature is on the Declaration or it's not. So which side are you on? Right?
Yeah, you have to be kind of careful with the, go ahead with your
No, go.
Immigrants and signing and being a direct line. There's so much Daughters of Republic and all of that.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. We don't want to exclude anyone. We don't want to make this an elitist thing.
Right.
But
this is freedom for all and justice for all. We could.
No, you're right.
Yeah. But still,
no, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. I'm just trying to think outside the box. Like, how do we get people in? How do we make them feel like they should be a part of this already, right out the gate? And I think if we get the Interfaith Vegan Coalition on board and they sign up as a signatory, right, that'll be huge. And all we're asking for is their signature at this point. That's the nose of the camel into the tent. We don't even talk about money. We just say, will you support this? Will you sign this? Right? And will you be there? Right? And if they're in for all those, of course they're going to show up with $1,000 check. Right? How could they not? And the Interfaith Vegan Coalition can then systematically reach out to all the religious organizations in Arizona, in the Southwest, and say, will you join us? Right? We're a bunch of interfaith organizations committed to ending hunger in Tempe. And therefore you'll basically get all the churches in Tempe saying, yeah, we're in. Because we're not asking them for money, but just if they show up to support, of course they're going to contribute. Right? So let's create the container, stone soup style. Let's just create the container. It didn't cost anything for those French soldiers to say, can I borrow a big pot? And where's the nearest river so I can get a stone? And does anyone have some water, right? Let's make it easy, easy, easy. And then people come in Stone Soup Style and say, well, I've got some extra onions. Can I kick them in? Everyone's going to want to kick in. But we first have to create the wagon before we can turn it into a bandwagon.
I think the idea of getting a coalition together as food healers, as the founding members of food healers or something like that. That's a really good one.
Yeah,
So-
federation.
Federation, the federation. Thank you.
Yeah,
Dan.
a federation of food healers, right? Yeah.
So, Jamin, will you write the Declaration of Independence from hunger and malnutrition?
Hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics.
Yeah. So that's your assignment for next week. Just do it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will be honored to put it up as a Google Doc, as long as we make it a collaboration.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And you know what? With Ray's signature, Canada is represented. With James's signature, Ireland is represented. Right? Let's
So
make it-
signature UK is represented. Right?
That's it. So is here. So what's up? So can we count on your signature? I know James is in. Ray's still thinking about it. Just kidding. I know Ray's not thinking about it. And so that's it. Interfaith, international, enter this, enter that, enter the new dimension, right? Enter the future. Enter a world without hunger and a world without pandemic. So we make these gigantic promises. That's part of the key to this. And look, by the time we had built a container in Seattle in the spring of 2013 for ending prohibition of cannabis, when I placed the call to President Vicente Fox and his nonprofit in Mexico, and I said, would the president be interested in joining us? By then the container was so big, all there was for him to do was say yes, right? So we start out with Interfaith Vegan, the different churches in Tempe and all this, get the mayor of Tempe, right? And what's the mayor of Tempe going to say? No, right? And we say, look, we're starting it here because that's where Food Healers is. That's where the founders of this is. And so, basically Christmas came early, mayor of Tempe, right? We're going to eradicate hunger and the pandemic right here in your city. And would you do us a favor and invite some other mayors from neighboring cities, because they all scratch each other's backs. And we'll say, look, we're starting it in Tempe, but we're going to expand this to all cities. We'll have the mayor of Phoenix, mayor of Tucson, right? Mayor of Mesa, and all the churches and everything else. There's no way this is not going to happen. We just got to structure it. So I like it, Silas. Start with the declaration. Here it is. Here it is. The principles are really simple, right? Boom, 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 boom. We just spell out the logic, and it's just like, it'll be like, all men are created equal. Okay, I can't disagree with that. Everyone has the right to choose their own destiny. Everyone should be free, and women. And thank you. I'm just paraphrasing. But it's stuff that you read. It's like, well, duh. Of course I'm going to sign this, right? And wow. Okay, so we got to write up the declaration. Let's also create the marketing container. At the press conference, here's what we're going to say, and here's who's invited, right? We're going to serve up, we're going to feed everyone at the press conference, and then we're going to get in the trucks and drive and deliver with music. And it'll be a big party. It'll be a celebration, right? We're going to declare victory. We're going to say today marks the beginning of the end of hunger, malnutrition, and pandemics. See, just strong language like that, that's just so clear and so grand visionary. And it's at the level of the world. It's starting here, but it's worldwide. We're going to be going city after city. Join the parade. And with the appropriate music and dancing, turning it into a party, making it fun, we should be celebrating the end of hunger, right? Okay, we got Danny, put up her hand, followed by Marco. Go for it, Danny.
What about getting out to the really distressed rural areas? Does anybody have a take on that?
Well, here's the cool thing. once we fill up a truck, like let's say there's the Navajo reservation that Silas is supporting, we drive the truck out there, right? Here you go. And we'll be back every 3 days, we'll be back with another fresh delivery.
So
Right.
where are we get the input as to the areas in need? Like we have to designate somebody to do research on, what the most critical areas are in need to start with?
I'll defer to Silas for that because he's doing that work.
Well, yeah, that's the purpose of the K-Mama app. That people can say I'm in need, through the app. So this is what we're doing when we give them the food boxes on August 11th, I think is when it's scheduled now, is we're going to ask them to sign on for the app so that they can then say, I need food. And so then we can calculate how much food is necessary to be cooked for that day and then go and supply that.
And then Silas, like I was saying, for the, there are spots in the country that people don't even have cell phones, but some of the really hard hit rural areas. Would it be through the religious organizations then trying to get a handle or input on, areas that are not modernized to be, taken care of as well?
Thanks, Danny. That's a great idea. So you can say the religious organizations can consolidate and say we need 100 meals for us, for our community. So that would work. So the needs, we can collect the needs through these, through this software mechanism, through the apps, things like that. And then we have to figure out how to supply the needs, right? So that's what the kitchens and the donors are going to be doing. And again, it is, I've eaten the food that Annamrita makes for the kids. It's delicious. So I could live with that, So, so clearly, especially if you say it costs 6 cents or 12 cents, I'm sure there are a lot of people in India would buy that food for 12 cents. So they're supplying a meal for another kid when they buy the food for 12 cents.
Yeah.
I believe that anything made with love tastes good. So you could serve me stone soup with actual stones in it.
Well, we might hold the stones, but here's the thing. Listen to this. When those trucks are rolling around Tempe, Arizona, delivering food, playing the music and all that, we'll basically, we'll have the spigot from which we're dispensing the stew, but there'll also be a big donation bin on the side of the truck. Just throw money in, right? And y'all might have heard that story from the book Freakonomics, where somebody started putting out trays of donuts in office conference rooms in San Francisco with just a little bin that said, just donate here, right? And what they found out was that the amount of money that people donated exceeded the cost of the donuts in the first place. And so they started doing it as a business. They'd go around just to conference rooms and offices all throughout San Francisco. Donuts, donuts, donuts. Here's a bucket, put in the money, and they were making money. So I would bet that the donations that we get per truck run, even in the poor neighborhoods, I don't care how poor the neighborhood is, somebody's always got $10 in their pocket, and they're going to love what we're doing, right? Spare change, it all adds up. Just dump it right in here, right? Hands free. We don't have to touch it. And it'll actually be quarantined for like a few days while the money gets quarantined, that kind of thing. Right. And I think it'll be profitable from the get-go. We just have to start. This is literally stone soup. Go ahead, Silas.
No, thank you. No, you're right. And also, I think once we have local produce to use, and we buy rice and beans in bulk, the cost is going to just dwindle.
Yeah.
So, totally. People would be willing to pay. I think this is the opposite model of restaurant models. The restaurant model, they are all ready to cook anything you want, right? So they've bought all these things. They don't know how much of it's going to go to waste and what they have to cook. And so they're specializing whatever they have to cook for whoever is ordering. Whereas here we are cooking one thing and we're giving it to everybody. And so that reduces the cost dramatically. So I was calculating $1 a meal, but I think I may have been, I think it'll be even less if you buy in bulk, because I was buying everything retail.
Yeah, I mean, the calculations that we did on the lentils at whatever it was per ton, $150 a ton or whatever. I mean, it turns out it's like, you do the math, it's like 6.5 cents a pound for dry lentils. And a pound of dry lentils will easily feed 5 people in terms of its contribution to the stew. So you got so in a serving of stew, you got a penny worth of lentils, a penny worth of rice, a penny worth of potatoes, right? And so the 5 to 7 major ingredients, you're now up to, 7 cents. Add some spices, that's another penny. Add some logistics, another couple pennies, right? It's cheaper by the pound, cheaper by the ton, cheaper by the megaton. And we're going to be delivering megatons of food, not megaton bombs. Megatons of food. And we'll literally talk in terms of megatons of food. Oh, yeah. United States, that's so many megatons per day. Uruguay, so many megatons per day. We'll just have like a world map. And we'll say the revolution is going international. The Declaration of Independence, this is an international revolution. It's starting in America, sure, because we're the land of revolutions, right? And yeah, it's signed by all these folks who each have things to say. Let's also draft up what we're going to say. So Ray, when you've got, your 2 minutes at the mic at the press conference, whether you're zooming in from Toronto or whether you're there in person, what are you going to say in those 2 minutes, right? BJ, in defending animal rights, what are you going to say in those 2 minutes? Dr. Priya Naik, in terms of nutrition, what are you going to say in your first 2 minutes? Silas, what are you going to say? Each of us gets 2 minutes. We got a big story to tell, right? James from Ireland, with your Irish accent talking about the potato famine of the 1800s, everyone is just going to be rapt attention, right? We've already had something like 30 countries just right here on the block party. We'll get so many people from so many countries zooming in. And what we'll say is, look, we've got a lot of stuff figured out, but there's also a lot of stuff that's not figured out. So we'd like to invite you to join the conversation where we're figuring it all out. And so it becomes a simultaneous launch of food healers, the Declaration of Independence of hunger and malnutrition and pandemics, and the launch of a planetary conversation to make this spread as quickly as possible. Danny's got her hand up. Marco, did you even get a chance to speak? You had raised your hand. I apologize. I'm gonna call on Marco first, followed by Danny. Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, I actually forgot until you said pandemic again. Maybe I missed something, but how is this curing pandemics?
Gotcha. I'll take the first crack and I'll ask for Silas to top up. But first of all, the main reason we have the spread of the pandemic is people are leaving their homes. They shouldn't be leaving their homes. Well, why are people leaving their homes? To get food, either to get money so they can buy food or to go out and buy the food. So we bring the food to them. They don't have to leave their homes. Number two, part of the reason people are getting sick is because their immunology, their immune system is compromised from diet, from stress, from all these things. Take away the stress of food insecurity and feed them, and their immune system is going to go up. The spread is going to go down, immune system goes up, etc. And Silas, if you have anything to add, go for it.
Yeah, also the very fact that it is a whole food plant-based too. There is no oil use, there's nothing. It is the healthiest food according to the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And it has a combination of everything. It has a combination of grains and legumes and and vegetables and greens. And so the only thing it can do is to boost your immune system. So it is the best food that we are designed to eat.
Sorry. Danny had her hand up, followed by BJ. Go for it, Danny.
How do we get past the health code thing in all these places? Thanks.
Yeah. So I'll super quick. There's a Good Samaritan law, which applies generally to like situations where people are donating food, but they don't want to get exposed legally. So because of that, we have Good Samaritan laws that basically says, look, if you're just doing a well-intentioned act and you're trying your best, you're not going to get sued for feeding people. That's broad brushstrokes. Silas, I'm sure, has more up-to-date info. Go for it, Silas.
No, I think you covered it. And also, these commercial kitchens do have health inspectors who come and take a look, and so they've gone through all that. So, I mean, Nadira has a commercial kitchen. She has a restaurant that she runs normally, and now it's closed, obviously. And so, and she said, I mean, all these vegan restaurants are looking to do something like this. They all want to serve. We didn't go vegan and start a restaurant because we all want to make money. That's so.
Wow. No, and that brings up really good points. BJ, go for it.
Well, I was just thinking about also in terms of pandemics, the link to the animal crowding and the zoonotic diseases. And so it's a step in that direction. And I don't know that we'd want to promote it right off, but there is that connection of zoonotic diseases from consuming animals.
I love it. In fact, we'll say this is bat-free stew. No bats were hurt in the making of this stew. And in fact, no animals of any kind were hurt in the making of this stew, right? But let's market it as bat-free stew, right? And that people who eat bats are batshit crazy. All right, Danny's got her hand up. Go for it.
Just briefly, it occurred to me that deliberately targeting the communities that have slaughterhouses and those processing plants would be, I think, an opportune, time and space to do that. No pangolin. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we have for the pilot program, we are thinking of 3 communities. One is in Tempe, another one will be in Iowa with the slaughterhouse workers, and the third will be Harlem in New York City with the African American community. So those are 3 that NIVI is looking at as where we can do the survey and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and so on. Because we are also looking at it as, how do we maximize the uptake? So what are we doing? What are we doing that we need to change to get more people to sign up? So that she's saying we need to be as rigorous as McDonald's is when they try to get people to buy their burgers. So that's what she's trying to do with her surveys.
Wait a second. Something just occurred to me. A whole different angle we can take on this. Let's say we get 20 different vegan restaurants in Tempe and near Tempe to each make their own variety of stew. We got the Southwestern Chipotle. We got the Indian, blah, blah, blah. We got the Navajo this. We've got the Irish that, right? And it's a competition for the best stew in the world. The greatest stew on earth, the best tasting stew. Who is not going to want to taste it? Who's not going to want to be a judge? Judge for yourself, right? We'll be delivering, and this is going to be a citywide experiment. We're going to feed everyone in the city and find out which is the best tasting stew, right? And let's make it like a big competition. I'm going to get Ray up there on camera saying, my Toronto plant-based stew is better than any American stew you guys can make, and I'm going to prove it in Tempe, Arizona. Right? That seems to suit Ray's character perfectly. And yeah, exactly. See, he's got it. And there's creative ways we can do this. Let's maybe bring some variety into it, right? And then we'll see all the different chefs all wearing their white, serving, and and it's just like, why not? In fact, that might be the way to do it. Say, look, we're gonna start on this date. We're gonna have 20 vegan restaurants. Make your own stew. That way, there's no money involved. Let them make the stew. Now, anyway, I'm just thinking for starters, but we also need to get that one big commercial kitchen with a big truck going, right? To show the model. Going on mute. Yeah, vegan Iron Chef. I like it.
Yeah, the recipe, I'm going to publish it. I'll put a Google Doc up with the recipe and all that, and the 2-pager on food healers. And that recipe is very flexible. 2 cups of mixed vegetables, any vegetable you want. It could be squash, potatoes, whatever. And then it's any legume, beans, lentils, whatever you want, and any grain. So it works with anything. There's just a base stew that we need to create.
But Silas, instead of putting so many cups of lentils and so many cups of chopped vegetables, do it by the truckload. 1 truckload of lentils, 1 truckload of rice, 2 truckloads of potatoes, that's it. This is the recipe for how to end hunger. See, the other is a recipe for a meal for a family, and that's all good. This is a recipe for ending hunger. This is a recipe for stopping the spread of pandemics. This is a recipe for compassion. This is a recipe for unity. This is a recipe for bringing community together. This is a recipe for food security. This is a recipe for democracy. This is a recipe for health. So many truckloads of this, so many truckloads of that.
Good point. We should do a recipe for all 7.8 billion people to eat. How much for a meal? This is what you need.
Yeah, we just got to keep bringing this creativity to it, and we've got the venue for it. Every Friday we're putting 4 hours into this, and every Friday it takes a boost forward.
It does.
And then, it really it's just how it works. And then I'd also love to schedule a time slot on Tuesdays for the Solution Club. And the thing is, see, with the conversation, the goal is that we get to 24/7, right? And Marco, raise your hand, please, for a second. Marco there in Michigan has been holding up a lot of the late night segments. And we've got a bunch of other hosts and hostesses, mostly hostesses, carrying it. So we're already 7 days a week. We're already having the conversation 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's not very far to 24/7. And that's the whole idea, that instead of just this pushing forward, on Fridays a bit, and yeah, it keeps moving forward, but it's in the conversation where this thing really takes off, where we bring our collective spirits and all of our past and our multi-generational past.
I actually connected Andrew. What's his last name? Andrew. I gave him the link to Andrew Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave him the link to the conversation because he's been talking about kitchen table conversations. This is like a global conversation from which kitchen table conversations can go.
Beautiful.
So he'll be hopefully joining the conversation sometime soon. He's from Australia.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Yeah. But what do you think, Jamin, about the disruption that this is going to cause to the current system, and how are they going to respond to it?
No problem. I mean, talk about disruption. When President Vicente Fox and I and all the other leaders from the cannabis industry did this big press conference in Seattle demanding action from the Obama administration, and the Obama administration delivered within 3 months, right? If anyone was going to make enemies, right, you would think it would be us, and you would think society would have some reaction to this, right? Well, we didn't. We got a bit of flack from society. The biggest pushback came from the criminal drug cartels in the form of death threats. So I've been through something way hotter than this, I believe. Because what we're saying is, look, no one, first of all, no Christian in America, which is predominantly Christian, different flavors of Christianity, fine, but Christian is Christian. What characterized Christ? Loaves and vegan fish, loaves and fishes, right? So no Christian on earth is going to have a single negative thing to say about us feeding people. And likewise, no Muslim, no Hindu, no Jew, no Buddhist, no nobody, right? Okay, fine. Somebody with a swastika tattooed to their forehead might come up and say, okay, well, the police will take care of them, right?
Chick-fil-A people.
Pardon me?
Chick-fil-A people.
Chick-fil-A. Oh, okay. Here's the thing. But how bad is their pushback going to be? All right, Chick-fil-A, who are you pushing back against? Food healers? You're picking the wrong target, buddy, right? Anyone who takes a stand against food healers for any reason is going to have so many mothers coming after them with freaking rolling pins saying, get the hell out of here, Jack. These people are feeding my kids. If you're going to get in the way of my kids and nutritious food, woo, we won't have to lift a finger. Now, there's not going to be any pushback. No pushback. Go ahead, BJ.
Okay, so here's the pushback I was thinking of, and it may not happen, but where's the beef? And those kinds of things. Oh, you've got that? Well, now, subsidized by big dairy and cattlemen, we're going to provide some free meals, and it's going to have the things you've been missing. Anyway, that's just a way. So I don't know that they'll do it for free, but, the government has a lot of money to support. To support. I mean, that's why the schools get their lunches from these places. At my school, the kids, it's the summer school, were required to get a meal whether they wanted one or not, so they could count it as being bought and sold. So they get it, throw it in the trash, get it, throw it in the trash. So anyway, that's just
the best. I think the best way to deal with the where's the beef thing is to preempt it. And at the press conference, we can have a where's the beef debate, and we'll have somebody representing beef. It could be me, it could be Ray, but somebody who basically says, where's the beef? Beef has this much protein, it's this much of the economy, And on the other side will be Dr. Priya Naik, very composed, saying, okay, I understand your 3 points that I heard you make are this, this, and this. Let me address them all in turn. Right? Here you are. And in terms of food contamination and the spread of disease through that, I'm going to defer to Dr. Rafaela Aguirre, who's going to tell us about, she's the expert in food contamination and bacterial growth based on different biota. And, she'll just show the chart. Plants, meat, dairy, right, in terms of durability, right? And, so we'll just hit them with facts. So, but what we preempted by the way, raise your hand if you know about the Where's the Beef campaign of the 1980s, if you saw the television ads. Okay, right. So everybody knows about Where's the Beef, okay? So, and it was a brilliant campaign on the part of Wendy's, a bit player in fast food challenging McDonald's, and it was successful from a marketing standpoint. So let's do the Where's the Beef debate. Let's just come right out with it. Let's not hide from it and wait till they attack us, and then we have a few arrows in our back and we say, hey, that hurts. Whoa, no, where's the beef? Let's have the debate. Where's the beef? Right? Let's put that one to bed at the press conference. Danny has her hand up. Go for it, Danny. Or were you voting that you
I was I remember where's the beef?
Yeah, it was unforgettable. No, I remember, I'll never forget the Friday night. Well, anyway, it's an unforgettable ad. And in fact, we can even get an actress who looks like that lady, right? With white hair and everything. Who says, where's the beef? Where's the beef? If there's no beef in this stew, I'm not going to eat it. Where's the beef? Where's the beef? And we just, and then we have a mock debate. There's that woman saying, where's the beef? And then you have Dr. Priya Naik saying, well, the reason this has no beef is da-da-da-da-da. It's got all the protein you need, all the B vitamins, all the vitamin C, the whole alphabet. It's right here. Here's the complete nutritional analysis. Yeah, but where's the beef? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? It's like there's going to be zero logic on their side, 100% logic on our side. You know, the answer is there is no beef. We're eradicating beef. And that's when we counterattack, and then we really break out the big guns, right? How many animals are slaughtered every year, right? What's the true cost of your beef, ma'am? We've got a beef with that. And other people who got beef, we've got So, followed by Ray. Go for it, So. So your microphone's muted. I think go for it, So.
You don't need the actresses because we are the actresses, and all we need is the wigs and the stage makeup, and we're on. Right. The other thing is, in England, we say, "Oi, what's your beef, Sonny?" And basically, it's anybody who's trying it on and funny with you. They're having a beef, you say, and it's much more spiky. It's like, "Yeah, what's your beef?"
Well, you know, one of the varieties of stew could be a Beyond Beef stew sponsored by Beyond Meat. They're drowning in money, right? And they're plant-based. So hey. All right, Ray, go for it.
One of the things I worry about more than beef is dairy, partially because there's such a deep cultural conviction that children need milk. And also the government and the dairy industry have piles and piles of it to give away. So as soon as this comes out, then it's, oh, well, we'll backfill with our enormous, availability of dairy. And there's this kind of narrative in the vegan community about don't start with poor people because they have it hard enough as it is, and now you're going to tell mothers that their children don't deserve ice cream. It's a dumb argument, but it's an extremely effective argument. And
Ray,
it tends to be a lot more expensive. I'm not saying bow to this. I'm just recognizing that it's a problem.
Ray, the other night, my daughter is very different to me culturally. She doesn't, she was brought up vegetarian, but she went completely the other way. And out of the blue, I decided to have a word with her. She never listens to anything I say. So I said, I need to talk about veganism. And I said, I think you need to know that these male calves have been taken off the mother. And I just did a brief speech and she went, oh. And anyway, the next day, or 2 days later possibly, she was talking on the phone to my son about plant milk. So I said, what's going on? She'd gone overnight to vegetarianism with not quite vegan, but almost there. And the key thing was the cows being taken as a mother, the male calves being taken off, and the cows screaming. I said that, and to be honest with you, it was the feminism that got me into veganism, because I'd been happy enough for donkey's years, not even thinking about the milk issue. But I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just saw that these cows were feminists, and I could identify with them, and that was it.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, James has his hand up, followed by Danny. Go for it, James.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, no, I was just saying that if anyone have a question about where's the beef, just a simple answer would be, we'd rather get beef from people because of no beef, rather than get beef because of people getting sick and salmonella and any other cross-contaminations due to meats being in the food. So I'd rather get beef for no beef than beef for salmonella.
Yeah, we're gonna get an A+ on that debate, and the beef supporters are gonna get an F, one big fat F. It's so clear. But I also wanted to add, it's not that we're telling people, hey, we're saying beef has to be illegal. We're just talking about why we didn't put beef in our stew. That's all. We're not telling kids they can't have ice cream. You know, we would hope that it would be coconut based, but you know, we're not here trying to impose or restrict anyone's freedom. We're just here to liberate people from hunger. That's all, right? That kind of freedom. Hey,
Anyway, for ice cream now, they've got so many just brilliant ice creams. I mean, if you wanted to eat, you know, things that are quite bad for your health, there are loads out there. I mean, they've got coconut ice cream, soya ice cream. They've got magnums. When I discovered that I could have vegan magnums, I ate the whole packet.
Brilliant, brilliant. All right, Danny has her hand up, followed by Ray. Go for it, Danny.
They tend to be more expensive, though, is my point. The cheap ice cream, and usually the ice cream that's available, the ice cream that, you know, is at somebody's birthday party or whatever, that's free ice cream. And the one thing that I really worry about is when people are going to be piling on saying, this is a great movement, I want you to donate my butter to your kitchen, or whatever the ingredients are, and then we say no, and then we have to like double down on the health arguments, and it's the sort of thing that can be very polarizing, because there's a lot of people that go, oh yeah, there's a conspiracy against butter. Butter is actually really healthy for you because of these studies that are produced by, you know, the butter industry. But I mean, I'm just anticipating a polarization at some pain points. But it just occurred to me that one of the things that may happen is, fine, we're going to go over to this church over here. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to feed all these people too. So then more people get fed for free.
Right, so. Right, yeah. See, ultimately, it doesn't matter if other churches get along, and then they start producing other stews, and they're feeding people, even if they're not vegan stews. We have started a trend by which everyone is getting fed. Okay. When everyone is getting fed, no one is going to go and work in jobs that's going to kill them. Right? So it completely upends this economy. Eliminate hunger, and you have eliminated this economy. You have made a completely different economy automatically. So it's sort of from, you know, you're sort of eating it from within, forcing a change from within. So you're rebuilding a new economy on the foundation of healthy food being available. I mean, if these people start making unhealthy food available, they are just going to make, you know, it's going to delay the healthy part of it a little bit, but it's going to hasten the collapse of the economy.
All right, Danny had her hand up for a bit, and followed by Ray.
So I think it makes sense to have a counter narrative to the ice cream dairy thing, and I would love to join in with anybody on that who wants to kind of add that to our case. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, and maybe Silas, you know about this, pea protein. Does anybody know anything about pea protein? Because that seems like a pretty reasonable resource to add to any mix. I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, if you want to get doctors like Priya Nayak and Dr. Barnard on board, it has to be a whole food plant-based meal. Because that's what the medical literature is saying is the optimum diet, I mean, optimum food for human beings. So when we extract just the protein from pea and put it in there, yeah, it increases the protein content of the meal, but it's no longer whole foods, right? So they will say, we don't want to endorse this. So I want them to endorse it. And I want Dr. McDougall on board. I want Dr. Barnard on board. When all these medical doctors who have studied this and who have said, this is the optimum diet, I want them on board saying, we support this because it is the healthiest diet. Because we can have vegan food that's very unhealthy too, you know, full of fat and full of salt, and but that's not what we want to feed people. When we feed people, we have to give them the best food possible. At least that's my the thinking behind this whole food plan.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
All right, Ray's got a comment followed by Jamin. Go for it, Ray.
Well, it occurred to me that we hear about this and I go, oh, we got to get this in Toronto, and everybody wants to get it for their city because they got ideas of where it would fit in. But what about the idea of, rather than targeting cities, big cities, what about targeting a small city that's industry is entirely based on animal agriculture, like Tar Heel, North Carolina? That's all it is. It's people that work at the Smithfield plant. What if you fed that community? That would get headlines. It would potentially be very combative because some people would be very polarized into saying, this is my livelihood, what are you doing? But, I mean, that would just generate so much more conversation, wouldn't it? Also, that place in North Dakota that closed down, it was a hotbed of COVID activity. And I mean, that's our motivation for going in there. When you answer the question, we're rescuing people. You were worried about, the ability of movements that have the kind of smack of animal rights being focused entirely on animals. This is rescuing people from this giant killing machine that is now including the killing of people as well.
I've got a quick comment followed by BJ. I just wanted to, this is a real life story from years ago. Before I even knew anything about veganism, I was operating the largest cyber cafe in Latin America with 85 computers, among other educational computer centers we were doing. And we bought this Bun Granita slush making machine, right? It's this big, heavy contraption. You've all seen it. You don't realize it's what it is, but it twirls around and it basically makes ice crystals and creates this beautiful uniform slush. And, so our main flavor was like some mocha, coffee, chocolate, whatever, super delicious. And I said innocently, hey, why don't we make a milk-based thing? Really delicious, with this flavor, that flavor. And the answer was immediate. You do not want to mess around with milk. That bacteria is going to grow like crazy. It's just unmanageable. Just forget it. I mean, I was trying to make a milk-based, frozen slush thing with this beautiful machine. The answer was just no. The answer from the industry, just forget it. It's not going to work. And that's for a machine that's in place serving customers right in front of you. As soon as you start transporting food, you deal with variations in temperature. As soon as you're dispensing food into a pot that might potentially sit out for a few hours, what we do when we have the where's the beef debate and where's the cheese and where's the milk and where's the cream, we say, look, we want to say this loud and clear. If you're going to put animal-based products into this stew and try to feed whole communities, you are playing with fire and you could end up killing people. Not only are you going to end up killing animals, you're going to kill people too. So we are not creating a machine of death. We're creating a machine of life. And for it to be a machine of life, it must be 100% plant-based. But again, we start with a debate called Where's the Beef, which makes it funny. Bring humor into it. Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Okay, well, let's talk about it. Where, Dr. Priya Naik? Yeah, where is the beef? What, you guys get lazy? You don't want to make a stop to the meat packing plant? What's the problem, Dr. Naik? Right? All right. See, we got BJ laughing. That's a good sign. Go for it, BJ.
Oh gosh, this conversation is so fun and inspiring. I love it. Eventually it'll be so nice to be able to provide these foods to prisons. And I was here in Texas, I'm thinking about on the border, we have vegans who have gone down to the border and provided food, but for a day or two. And I don't know exactly if those were the people that had just been released and that sort of thing. So eventually that will be a wonderful thing. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that there's a documentary called Come Hell or High Water, The Battle for Turkey Creek. And it's where people are going in and plowing up these homes of Black people who live in this area and for, modern development. And real quickly in the interview in this trailer, and this movie is provided by Interfaith Power and Light, the cattleman said, I'm a cattleman and I'll do whatever it takes, no matter what, to keep my business going. And that reminded me so much of Cowspiracy, where they will not go gently into the night, some of them. And
Are you talking about What the Health? Because there's a guy in What the Health that says the National Cattlemen's Association have all the money of big pharma and the personality of the NRA.
well, I had forgotten about that. It's in there too, but in Cowspiracy, you know, the whole conspiracy about them actually killing people in South America wasn't said, but certainly implied by some organizations. But yeah, it's there too. It's, my gosh. So, so I guess that's what you were talking about, being brave there, Jamin.
Well, see, here's the thing. If we were boycotting a meat plant in Tar Heel, North Carolina, and y'all know where the name Tar Heel comes from, that you know, during the American Revolutionary War, the North Carolina fighters, they wouldn't retreat. They would just stand there firing until they were totally gunned down, and it's like they had tar on their heels because they could not retreat, right? So I think if we were to take the fight to Tar Heel, North Carolina, we could expect some violent, you know, pushback, because there we're going right to the heart of it. And whereas in good old Tempe, Arizona, if we're just feeding people, no one's going to mess with us. If we mess with them, then they'll mess with us. But if we simply feed people, no one will mess ever. They'll never mess with us. All you have to do is not mess with them. They'll simply go extinct because they're just, we're going to dry up the market for their stuff. It's as simple as that. So we don't have to say a single thing bad. No, and when we have the where's the beef debate, it really focuses on two things: food spoilage and immunology. We don't want to make people sick. We want to heal people. It's really that simple. And we're not saying, oh, eradicate. Yes, we are saying that. But at the press conference, I would urge restraint on our part to not take it too far. Say, look, because we're delivering it and temperature variations and all that, they're just not an option. They're not safe. For this application, they're simply not safe. And when you hit them with safety, oh my goodness, 999 out of 1,000 Americans are going to say, yep, safety first, safety first, safety first, right? And the other is immunology. This is immune boosting. We haven't optimized for boosting immune systems. Animal products take you in the opposite direction. What caused COVID? Animal products. That would be as far as I would take it. Right?
It makes sense not to make it an opening move. It would certainly be overt, but as a future phase, especially once we get into the fall and there's a lot of resurgence of COVID, and I mean, we could be literally rescuing people from those kinds of places. But yeah, to make it the opening move would be a really big mistake.
Yeah, the opening move is all about love. We love people. We're here to heal people. For this application, animal products just cannot. For this application, that's it. But and then let people extrapolate from there. And we make it fun. Yeah, go ahead, James. Yeah.
I was just saying, like, given the fact that all the you know, the science points towards a resurgence of the second wave. I know you're dealing with the first wave still in America, but a second wave in the autumn because of the cold weather and everything else. And even at that, they're only going by previous pandemics, which were flus. This isn't even that. It's worse again. But neither here nor there. Given that fact that it could be even worse in the autumn, then there's going to be a lot more people desperate for food, because a lot of people are losing their jobs and their homes and everything else, and they're in dire situations. So food is a priority, all right. But you know, just take into consideration if there was animal product in a large consignment of food, of stew now, and it was, you know, given out to if it was all given out to, that's a lot of people in a large consignment of stew. And if there was animal product in that and they somehow got contaminated, there was salmonella in it or some bacteria or whatever, people start getting food poisoning. imagine if the hospitals are already inundated with COVID victims, then to have an inundation then of food poisoning cases on top, it'd be pandemonium. So it goes without saying that it's common sense. 100% plant-based, 100% safe eating. Simple as that.
Very, very simple. All right, Ray has his hand up, and I just want to mention we're 14 minutes from the top of the hour. In about 4 minutes, I think I'll start to reset and whatever for the Divine Feminine. But this conversation can continue right up to the top of the hour, no problem. You'll just see me sort of bugging out. And Silas, if you don't mind, moderating for the last few. Ray, go for it.
One other thing about the meat plants and rescuing people from those places, Nina Schroedel sent from Germany an article that I translated piece by piece. One of the things that struck me was that they have recognized that meat processing plants don't have a flu season. They're cooled. Their entire structure is cooled all year round. So they are constantly going in, and even worse, going out into the warm atmosphere, back into the cold atmosphere, which creates flu-like environment nonstop. Like this incredible strain on people's immune systems. So that's an argument that I haven't seen fielded before. Just wanted to add that onto that idea. And at some point, I think this quite literally becomes a human rescue, not just from from starvation, but from being forced to work in these kind of conditions. There's also, Tar Heel would be an obvious adversarial situation with Smithfield. There's also a nationalist kind of angle that would naturally happen. I wouldn't push it or anything, but it's owned by the Chinese, so it's hardly an American company, and I think a lot of people are becoming aware of that. I had another point, but I forgot it.
It'll come back. And meanwhile, Danny's got her hand up. Go for it, Danny.
Yeah, so Ray, I raised exactly the same thing. I mean, who would you want to rescue? But, the people who are forced to work in these ridiculous conditions at meat processing and stuff. And so I agree that's a great place to start with the outreach. I think, I don't know how to go about it. I'd be willing to do plenty of research, but we also, as far as like these other rural communities, discussed that the faith communities in those regions would probably be the ones to collect the information and feed it back through the K-Mama app. So it's definitely, a subject worth discussing, working out. Thanks.
Yeah, you brought up a good point there. If we're doing this, it would be through one of the churches in that neighborhood. Which church would be that brave? Which would stand up to the, thousands of people that work in that plant? So this is definitely a down the road kind of a scenario. But to add on to this idea of when we're inevitably, if we are successful, we measure that by how agitated the meat industries become and how they respond. And if they compete with us, like we said, boo-hoo, people get fed. That's not the worst scenario. It emphasizes this need for a universal basic nutrition that doesn't work in the favor of any corporation that relies on absolute stagnancy of the status quo. This radical feeding of people isn't good for the oligarchy. It's waking people up and going, everything was the way it's always been the entire time I've been alive, so I can't think of any reason that it's going to change. Yet here it is changing. I've never seen this before. So when you wake people up in that way, that's where the real change happens. When you go, yeah, I want something new and different. I'm tired of being scared of the future, so I accept the evils of the present, which resemble the evils of the past, and that we've always tolerated those. So what is the tipping point past which we go, yeah, I want something new. I want better. And there's so many movements right now that they're based on that feeling of, okay, we have got the coronavirus and it's damaged a lot of our society, but how do we build back better? And people are really ready to talk about those kinds of projects. And this is definitely one of them. I remembered what the other thing was I was going to say. Rather than communities that are dependent on their animal agriculture and their slaughterhouses or whatever, focusing on cities, which has been the Vegan World 2026 strategy in the first place, there are slaughterhouse areas in cities that presumably have a large amount of the people that work there living nearby. I could think of one area in Toronto where all the slaughterhouses are. So you could potentially do that in a city and you know, be a little bit coy about it. It just happens to be in the Stockyards district. We still call it the Stockyards district, even though the slaughterhouses are more or less hidden. But it's, as I'm kind of charting out Toronto and where would be the places that need to be served, that could be one of them.
In San Antonio, they just opened up a wet market where you pick the animal that you want slaughtered.
They just opened up a wet market, opened it up, just decided while everybody's debating whether to shut them all down, they decided to open one up.
That's what I understand. It could be there and they just found it, but I understand that they opened it up, and yeah, that's recent. That's in the past month.
A wet market, what sort of animals are included in it?
I think there were chickens. Yeah, chickens. You pick the chicken you want. It doesn't make any sense. So there are those smaller ones, and in Austin there's the butcher markets where you bring your animal and they do it right there. So it's not a big slaughterhouse, but there are those kind of markets. So yeah, wherever we go and serve this food, it will be good and have its impact on those places.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that it's a disruption on the current system. You know, this, that's our intent also, because I'm tired of this. You know, why are we letting the number of people who are hungry double in 1 year and not do anything about it? What the heck, right? That's like, it's unacceptable that we just sit back and let it happen.
Kind of reaching that middle ground between the shift to the next topic. People starting to show up. Myrna, are you showing up for is it the Divine Feminine that's on next?
Oh, Myrna, welcome. Myrna is our guest of honor for the Divine Feminine. So yeah, we're just in the process of wrapping up the Amazing Food Healers segment, which you will love, Myrna. And Myrna is all about this. So anyway, just carry on. Welcome. Give a warm welcome to Myrna. We're kind of resetting the room here for Food Healers. So just, sorry, for Divine Feminine. So carry on, everybody. Myrna's in the house. All right, everybody, let's try that again. Give a warm welcome to Myrna. Everybody say, Myrna, woo! Myrna's in the house. Myrna's in the house. Woo, 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 woo.
Thank you.
I was clapping with my icon, but it wasn't making any noise.
So anyway, I'll have the Word document up and I will post it on Basecamp and also post the link when I come back in the evening for Food Healers. So we can all start editing together.
What's in the Word document? I missed the beginning of the meeting.
The Word document for the 2-pager on Food Healers, introduction to it and what are we doing and the recipe and so on. So it's just
And that's immediately shareable?
yeah. Well, you can edit it. So let's figure out if it's good before we share it.
Okay.
And Dr. Rao, you had some people in mind you were sharing it with. Is that right? Maybe.
Yeah. Eventually, I have to give it to the Navajo Nation people who want to know what we are doing, and Nivi wanted it. So a lot of people who wanted it. Yeah.
Ray, is there a Food Healers group on Basecamp?
I think it's called K-Mama App Task Force.
K-Mama Task Force, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to be in that group.
Sure.
Thank
I'll
you.
answer right away.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll post our sign-up survey in the chats just in case anybody wants to join Basecamp or the specifically that group.
Hey, Ray, it's cool if I post that on Facebook and all my social media. Yeah, good.
Ray, you soon have to change that to join Chrysalis.
I've also added one there, a link to Learn Basecamp. It's a lot of links to figure out what this Basecamp platform is all about and how it works. Just so you know what you're getting into. A lot of people have joined that don't understand how it works and start getting emails and get really frustrated. So if technology is a terror to you, it's a good trip to go through because after a glance, it's pretty straightforward stuff. It's basically one page with a bunch of little rooms in it that are all identical.
All right, we're 1 minute away from the top of the hour. And let's see, we're waiting for Jackie to arrive. So we might just chill for a couple of minutes. I'll leave it up to you, sweetheart.
Yeah, let me give her a quick call and
Yeah.
see what's up.
Sure, sure.
Just to fill in this lull, I yesterday finally decided to take my account with academia.edu, they ask me what my interests are, and they email me notifications of different published papers in their library. So I just went through my email, sorted by their email address, and plucked them all out into a spreadsheet. So I've got a topical spreadsheet of, it's over 50, it'll probably be around 100 research papers that people have written on the topic of veganism and food and animal agriculture. A lot of them are psychology and sociology papers, so it's a bit different from the usual stream of scientific and economic papers that we tend to shuffle around. And I've started to added a column and categorize them into whatever study group I think that they belong into. But of course, it's general interest, and I'll make it available in the main Basecamp group for people to check over. And I think the link is, I think it's infinitely downloadable. I don't think you need an account. But if you do, the accounts are free with academia.edu.
All right.
Let me stop the previous recording and